you go ahead and introduce yourself. Just drop your name and where you're tuning in from today. I know one of our friends is driving, so please, our friend who is driving, don't do that. But everyone else, Amber, Emily, whoever, why don't you just drop where you're tuning in from so we can get to know each other a little better.
For those of you that don't know me, I'm Kylie and I'm from the Seattle area. Allison and I are like, what are we? Internet friends? I don't really know.
Internet soul sisters, same thing. I'm
noticing like that's where all of my best friendships are. You know, I feel like everybody grows up in this environment with the people that are around them, and it's cool. It's cool and everything. But the internet, when you use it in a way that allows you to connect with like-minded people, it is so powerful.
Absolutely. And I guess I'll do my little intro. My name is Allison. I actually saw a couple of you at my workshop last night, so it is so good to see you again. I'm tuning in from downtown St. Louis. I just moved back here from Death Valley, California. So definitely a lot different going from the remote desert to the downtown city life. So it's been a big change, but also a lot of tests for how well I regulate my nervous system, which is what today is all about. So I want to take a moment and welcome you guys to our nervous system regulation masterclass. This is something we've had in the works for a while. It's been something we've been dreaming about. And it's because Kylie and I both struggle with panic and anxiety and phobias and things like that. And so we truly get it. And we want to host this workshop to share what we've learned on all our journeys and just kind of like open up our toolkit for you guys to grab whatever you need from. So I'm super excited and we are about to get into it.
I love that you use the toolkit analogy. It's like, that's my favorite thing ever because, you know, there's all of these different tools and maybe sometimes one is helpful. Maybe other times the other one is helpful. There's no right or wrong, but these are just all of these strategies that we've learned from personal experience. And I also am a yoga teacher. I'm a holistic health coach. And so just lots of training and education in that department as well. And being able to combine, I feel like experience and science and spirituality makes for a pretty dang good lesson.
Yes.
So I see we have Amber tuning in from Denver. Awesome. Haley. Oh, Emily on Haley's account, maybe. There we go. From Massachusetts. Jenica from California. Oh my gosh, we are all over the board. I love it. And we actually have somebody else joining us as well. Okay. Well, what do you guys say we go ahead and get started?
Let's do this thing. I'm thinking it's time, Kai. Let's just dive in. I'm so excited.
Let's do it. So before we get into today's experience, you guys, let's just take a moment to tune into the present moment, to land in our bodies and just take a moment to be here in this space right here, right now, especially after a long day. Maybe you had work, maybe you were like running around like crazy, doing errands, doing chores, whatever it is. Let's just take a moment to do a couple of breathing like exercises, take a couple of moments to tune into the present moment. That way we can all be here together and enjoy this space for what it is. So if you tuned into Allison's masterclass last night, we're going to do the same exact breathing strategy because it's my favorite. I think it's one of her favorites too. And it is called the square breathing method. So let's just go ahead. And if you feel comfortable to do so, you can bring your eyes to a close. If not, maybe you can bring them to like a soft gaze and just gently gaze down at the floor in front of you and really just take a moment to notice where your mind is at. Just begin to observe any thoughts that are arising, any thoughts about what you could be doing, what you have going on after this class, whatever it is that might be going on in there. Just start to become the observer. And as you tune deeper into this space, we can bring one hand onto the belly, maybe the other hand onto the heart, if that feels okay. Always do what feels good in your body. And we'll just begin by exhaling all of the air out of our system. Let's take a deep inhale through the nose for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 3, 2, 1. Exhale out of the mouth for 3, 2, 1. So we're repeating this pattern. We'll hold at the bottom. And when you're ready, we inhale through the nose for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold at the bottom. 3, 2, 1. Take your next inhale. We'll do a couple more rounds here. And exhale. Go ahead and let out a sigh, whatever it is that feels good. Let's do one more. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out of the mouth. And just begin to slowly open up your eyes. Find yourself landing back into this space, into this little Zoom bubble of this nervous system regulation world that we have. And I hope that everybody is feeling good, feeling here, and feeling ready to go.
Thank you, Kylie. That actually did a lot for me. You guys, quick little side note, right before I got on this call. So yesterday my hair caught on fire before I got on the call. Today I went down to get my package and my Amazon package had been stolen with my laptop in it. So now I have to file a claim and everything. And right before this class, I needed a nervous system regulating moment. And thankfully I had the toolkit that I had. And so, yeah, it's funny how the universe kind of like throws that at us right as we're about to teach other people about how to handle the exact same situation. So I'm really excited. And I want to ask you guys, what is your why? There is a reason that you felt called to show up today, to invest your time into this workshop. So I want you to pop in the group chat if you're comfy and share your intention for showing up. Example, I've been really anxious lately. I struggle with panic attacks. I have phobias. My mind is always racing. I don't know how to calm myself down when I get worked up. Anything like that. What is your why? What brought you to this workshop and to Kylie and I's space? Because if we can better understand what you're struggling with, we can better help guide you to kind of, I guess it's like a roadmap to success. So if you guys want to jump in the group, if you feel comfortable, and just share that intention.
And there's no right or wrong answer either. That's what I love about these kinds of things. And I mean, honestly, what I love about being human is that we are all so unique. And we are all so valid in our unique experiences. So, yeah.
Okay, Amber says that she struggles with agoraphobia. Yes, me too, girl. I also have agoraphobia, panic in public places and public spaces, places where you feel like you don't have control and anything could happen are very triggering. Jenica looks like it says, looking ways to better myself and hear and learn from others. I love that. You're on a journey to a better you, and it's beautiful. And it looks like Emily says panic attacks too, and some new techniques. Yep. I think we can all agree here that we've probably had at least one anxiety or panic attack in our life. Yeah, they're one of those things that just happens when we're in that state of extreme stress and anxiety. So yeah.
I'm driving right now, so I can like say it out loud if you want me to.
I would love that.
Okay. Sorry guys, I got off work late, so I'm just trying to make it work. But I think what a lot of people said, I agree with. I've just kind of been someone who's always like, my mind is racing. Like, it's hard for me to sleep simply because I can't stop thinking. So I think for me, it's just knowing that there's access out there and actually putting that into action and, you know, bettering myself just intentionally. So that's why I'm here.
Oh, I love that so much. I love that so freaking much. And I love how we all already have something in common in the way that we all want to improve ourselves. And we're all kind of on this self-development journey, and being surrounded by that type of person is so good for your self-development journey. It really is.
It is. I don't know how many times since Allison and I have met that either of us are like, oh my gosh, it feels so good to be understood. Or like, oh my gosh, somebody understands me. I'm not freaking crazy. It's what I love about being able to come together in these spaces. So thank you guys for being so vulnerable and being willing and open to share.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you guys for holding this space.
Yes, it is our pleasure. We are so excited about this. So next, Kylie, there we go.
Yeah. So what is the nervous system, right? We're here at this nervous system regulation workshop, and I'm sure that the nervous system is something that many of us have heard of before, but what is it and how does it relate to what it is that we're trying to teach and talk about today? So I just wanted to give like a quick little overview, but before I do that, I am curious to know, are you guys familiar with its role? So you can either unmute yourself, you can either pop in the chat, whatever feels good for you guys. Are you familiar with the role of the nervous system and what its like job is, for lack of a better term, what its job is in our everyday life? Okay, awesome. I see some people are saying so, love it.
Okay.
For me, for the longest time, it was one of those terms I heard in a science class, but then, didn't like, it's like I heard of it, but I didn't actually know what it was.
Amber needs a reminder. I feel that I recently had a reminder and I definitely needed it. So this will be good.
Yeah, awesome. So the nervous system, you guys, like as humans, we are designed to be on high alert for danger. And the nervous system is what helps like all parts of our body communicate with each other. And so I like to say it's like, lack of a better term, it's the mind-body connection. It's like the control center of your body that is communicating what is up based on your senses, including your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, whatever it is. It is always trying to keep you safe. And so its main purpose is to protect us from harm, right? And when you think about our ancestors or a long time ago, that was super freaking helpful for our ancestors who were in tribes or living off of the land. Like they needed their nervous system to kick in if they were left behind by the tribe and were facing a hungry bear, right? Like they needed their body to be able to say like, hey, that's not safe, right? Or hey, that's a signal for danger. Or, maybe they just get this feeling in their body, AKA our intuition. That's like something doesn't feel right. And it's like, oh, well, there was a hungry bear around the corner, right? Or, oh, there's another tribe coming. So kind of what I'm trying to get at is once upon a time, our nervous system was super helpful. But with the go, and how busy we are in today's society, our brain constantly feels the need to be on the lookout. Like, think about how many times you get a text or a notification from Instagram or whatever it might be. Like, there's information coming at us from all sorts of different directions nowadays and at high speeds, like almost every second of every day. And so essentially, it's like the nervous system is starting to work against us. That's kind of what comes to mind for me. And while yes, of course, there are times and places in which the nervous system is helpful, like if you're going on a hike and you start to go towards the edge of the cliff, right? Or maybe you're walking on kind of a narrow path and your foot slips and your heart drops or your heart starts racing. It's like, okay, that's awesome. And thank goodness your nervous system does work. But like I said, in today's day and age, it's kind of like it's working against us in the fact that we're almost anticipating danger now. We are on the lookout for things that could happen. And that's kind of where we get into the deeper end of anxiety and whatnot. And so maybe some of you guys are able to relate to that as well. It's just like all of the what ifs, right? The fears of the unknown, like this could happen, this could happen. And that is where our nervous system is really starting to, I don't want to speak for all of us, but it's starting to like get a hold of us. And so, yeah, the other important thing I wanted to share about the nervous system is that there are different ways in which it tries to protect us. So maybe you've heard of the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. I actually wasn't very familiar with the fawn response until recently, and I'm so excited for Allison to touch more on that in a little bit. But essentially, these different ways are the ways in which your body responds to potential threats, right? The way that your body is going to figure out like what is happening in a certain situation. And again, it all just goes back to that individualization. We are all unique beings, and there's really no right or wrong way for our bodies to be doing anything. It's just our experience, it's our life circumstance. And so that's kind of what we are here to talk about. So when we think about regulating, that's the other thing, is like that is the nervous system. We have this whole like smart system that is here to keep us on the lookout. And we know that sometimes we begin to overthink. We begin to be like, oh my gosh, what if this happens? You start to get anxious. Maybe the heart starts to beat just a little bit. What does it mean to regulate it? So for lack of a better term, it's like homeostasis, finding like an equilibrium, snapping back into reality. And there's two parts. Like I said, I love to bring like science into these teachings in combination with like spirituality. I'm somebody that I like to know the how. I like to know the why. I'm like, give it to me. So it snaps us back into reality. In the nervous system, we have like our sympathetic nervous system and our parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is that fight or flight mode, on the lookout, right? Heightened like adrenaline and cortisol, our stress hormones act up. And the parasympathetic nervous system is what they like to call rest and digest. And that is when your body is able to just kind of ground down, drop out of the mind into the body, experience the present moment, and actually be able to respond rather than react. So let's see.
Does anybody have any questions about that, or did that feel good? We're following.
Yeah. Always feel free, like if you have any questions, pop them in the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself and be like, what the heck did you just say?
Yes, we want this to be as interactive as possible. So if you guys have anything to say at any point, just throw your hand up or just freaking go for it. Amber said, feels good. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. Amazing. And that too, let me know if or let Allison know if we need to slow down a little bit, whatever feels good.
Okay, you guys. So as we said earlier, are you familiar with fight, flight, freeze, and fawn responses? Have you heard of all four? Have you heard of just fight or flight? Have you never heard of this in your whole life? And you're like, what the hell? Where are you at with this concept? Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn responses. You can drop it in the group chat. Only heard of fight or flight. I feel like that's pretty common. Yep. Those are the two most common, definitely talked about.
Yeah, I've never heard of fawn. I don't know her.
Ooh, I'm excited to share that one with you because I only recently heard about it like 6 months ago. So yay.
Yeah, awesome.
So now we're going to get into those. Yep, everyone's on the same page. They only know fight or flight. So let's talk about these stress and trauma responses. When our body knows that we're in danger, or our mind, we have these responses that sometimes feel out of our control. It almost feels like someone is on The Sims and took our character and is like, start screaming, run away. And it's like, sometimes it feels, it's so instinctual and it's so natural and so bam, that we barely even know it's happening. So the first trauma response, stress response we have is fight. This is typical to see in people who are, a little bit more aggressive. This could include yelling, screaming, name calling, getting really defensive, kind of deflecting, blaming, that aggressiveness. That is the fight trauma response. And usually this doesn't mean that a person's a horrible monster. That's just their trauma response. And when things go wrong and they're panicking, the first thing they can think of is yell, scream, fight. And so that's the fight trauma response. The next one we have is flight. And this one is also pretty common. It's wanting to escape, get out of the situation, get yourself the hell away from it, feeling anxious, feeling avoidant. If you have an anxious attachment style, this is very common for you. So it's fun, but we'll get to that. But basically you just keep yourself busy and ignore what's going on and try to kind of like dissociate and get out of there. And that is the flight response. Next, we have freeze. Freeze is just completely shutting down. Something happens and your mind goes blank. You freeze up. You're feeling stuck, trapped, helpless, maybe unsure. And you probably have a tendency to isolate, dissociate, and zone out. When things get to be too much, you just check out. You go somewhere else. Mentally, you go to Jamaica and you have like a strawberry daiquiri in your hand and you are just like not there. Like shit is on fire at work. The world is burning down, but you are mentally not there. That is freeze. And so fawn, the last one, this is my personal favorite because this is my stress and trauma response. Fawn is when you begin to people please. You know the word fawn, like you're fawning over someone? That's where it comes from. So when you are in a stressful situation or an overwhelming situation, you go to people pleasing. Like you start to sacrifice your needs. You prioritize other people's comfort over yours, kind of like martyrdom. You act from a place of fear of abandonment. And so you are just desperately saying like, no, please don't leave me. I am willing to sacrifice my needs and what I need to make sure that you stay, to make sure that everyone feels okay. And it's the martyr of these four. So I'm curious, pop in the chat, which one do you most commonly resort to? Or maybe if there's two, you can include both, but which one of these resonates with you for your response when things are coming up in your life?
I feel like
And
I resonate with all of them though.
Totally.
yep, and that's totally possible. Yeah, I'm seeing in the group chat freeze. I'm seeing a lot of fawn. Yeah. Yeah. And if you haven't heard of fawn, doesn't that just like make so much sense for you? You're like, oh my gosh, that's why I do that. Freeze and fawn, freeze and fawn. Yep. Yep. And isn't that so funny how the ones we talk about most are fight or flight? And then the ones that you will actually experience in real life the most are freeze and fawn. But we don't talk about those ones as much because they're just becoming, I guess, like uncovered or discovered or whatever. Did everybody drop theirs? Let me check the chat. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of freeze. I'm seeing a lot of freeze and fawn. And I see one flight. I don't see a single fight. And wow, I don't see a single fight. I feel like that may be more typical for the male gender, but it's hard to say for sure. I feel like it could, but also I know plenty of women who are also a little hot-headed and aggressive. So
yeah, we definitely, I feel like all have our moments, but I just want to like reiterate, I think it is so funny seeing how most people identify with freeze and fawn, but like have never even heard of them before. That's like a perfect example of we all experience these things that we think is just us. Like we don't think it's normal. We don't think other people experience it because people aren't talking about it. So, man.
yeah, and this is why mental health advocacy is huge, because oftentimes a lot of us are feeling the exact same way, but nobody's talking about it because mental health still has such a stigma that we're afraid if we come forward and say, I need help, that makes us weak, that makes us look silly, that makes us look needy or whatever, when in reality, the strongest thing you can do for yourself is admit you need help and show up and get the work. And yeah. Oh, Garrett popped in. Hi, Garrett. Probably fight, then flight, then freeze, then fawn last. That's funny you said that because I had just said, awesome. Thank you for sharing, Garrett. So now we learned about these 4 types. Now what? What do we do with this information? Why are you telling us this? First thing is first, awareness and acceptance is everything. If you're aware of how you react in those situations, you are going to be better able to address that and change that. And it's also important to accept that. If we say, when I'm under stress, I freeze, and I am a stupid piece of shit for that, we're not going to be able to change. You have to be able to accept where you're at if you want to be able to move forward. And so instead, you reframe that. You say, currently, when things go wrong, I freeze. It's not the best, but it's the best that I can do right now, and I'm working on doing better. That is a mindset that you need to have with this. Because from here, once you have accepted and have the awareness, you can do something about it. You can make those changes. You can see yourself handling situations better and better. For example, the package thing. When I went downstairs earlier, right before this, to get my package and couldn't find it, I literally immediately put my hand on my heart and started deep breathing exercises. And I know that sounds like impossible. And it's like, how did you not lose your mind? It's a $500 laptop. But I knew that in that moment, there was nothing I could do to change the fact that my laptop has been misplaced. There's nothing I can do. And so I can scream, I can cry, I can fight, I can fawn, or I can accept, or I can radically accept, breathe in. I took my few breaths, and then I came upstairs and I was like, sometimes that's the name of the game. That's the way the wave flows. I don't know what kind of analogy that is, but your number one goal in the moments of these high stress times is to signal to your body that you are safe. You are safe. You did not get thrown out of the tribe. You were not left to fight off an angry bear on your own, but your body may respond like that's the case because that's how our ancestors actually experience things. And yeah, I wanted to share a story, but I actually realized it's for later when we talk about our personal experience with anxiety. So I will save that actually.
So many stories. I feel like we could honestly just hop on without even sharing a screen, you guys, and just like I would love to be able to connect like deeper in this space because I love hearing, like, it is so validating to hear other people's experiences and then also see. I think it is so amazing to witness like a situation such as Allison, where maybe a year ago she would have freaked out if she lost her laptop. Maybe that's not even a might. She would have freaked out.
Girl, 3 months ago, I would have came back home, cried in my bed, chugged a bottle of wine, and just signed off for the night and just threw myself the world's biggest pity party and sent e-bites to the whole world. But yeah, to wrap up this slide.
Oh, I love it.
You were just uncomfortable and you were just dysregulated, and that's okay. It is okay to feel the things that you are feeling when you are trauma responding. It is not your fault. And like I said, awareness and acceptance is everything, because now we can do something about it.
Yep, absolutely. And acceptance, it's the answer to almost everything, right? If you think about what your nervous system gets worked up about, it's like wanting to change something that happened, well, wanting to prevent something from happening, but it's like, wait a second, what can I control? What can I control? And so that's what takes us to this next part, is like, what can we do about it? Well, the things that we can control, one, like Allison said, is becoming the observer. Like, notice what it is that you are experiencing. And I loved that she shared that part about putting her hand on her heart and being like, I'm going to breathe. Like, I'm feeling nervous. I'm going to breathe. Because one of my number one things is like noticing what sensations you feel in your body. Maybe you guys can share some in the chat, but I know for me, like, if I start to get anxious, first things first, I get the racing heart. And then I get this feeling like I need to pee, right? It's like the pit in the stomach, or the really really like, oh my God, what is going on? Sometimes my throat kind of lumps up. And so this is kind of taking it to a different space. But when we can become aware of where those sensations are in our body, then we can actually take it to the energy centers and what is going on beneath those sensations. So when you can notice what is going on and just become the observer, hey, I notice that my heart is starting to race. That's it, right? Just notice it and begin to cultivate that mind-body connection, because it's simply your body just trying to communicate with your mind what it's feeling, what its little feelers, antennas are out there. We have a few chats here. Yeah, my throat feels like it closes. My hands shake. Feel like fainting.
I'm sorry, I direct messaged you, Kylie.
Oh, no worries. I'm going to read it too. I love it. I feel like fainting, eye blurriness, heavy chest, lightheaded. Fear and anxiety is always manifested as a nervous pit in the stomach. Yup. More blurry vision, feeling shaky. My arms and legs get tense. I usually start fidgeting. Oh, fidgeting is a huge one. That is a huge one for me. Or picking at my skin, right?
Oh my gosh, me too. I'm so bad about it. I'll get this beautiful manicure and then anxiety will kick in and I'm like, I must deconstruct this beautiful $50 manicure with my anxious hands.
I love it. And it's something too, if you spend a lot of time with the same person, they might actually notice things in you that you don't notice about yourself. For me and my partner, he can tell when I get anxious, because I do I don't know if you guys can see, but I kind of clasp my hands and I'll go like this back. And he's like, what are you thinking about? And it's just this tendency that I didn't actually notice about myself. So anyway, always fun to become the observer and just accepting. It's what the number one thing you can do is you have to become the observer in order to accept, okay, my heart is racing. Now what? To that, my answer is we breathe. Breathing is quite literally the only thing that is not optional. I say this in my yoga classes. I share this with my students all of the time, especially in moments of panic or high stress, whatever it is you might be experiencing. Breathe. You have to breathe. And I wanted to share just a little bit more on this because, again, bringing some science into it. When you take a deep inhale, that is allowing your blood cells to receive oxygen. And then when you exhale, it releases the carbon dioxide. And so when you have improper breathing, right, if you're kind of fast breathing and almost you're out of breath type of thing, maybe some people experience that when they get anxious, that's disrupting that exchange in your body, which can just lead to some more anxiety. Allison, I love you. You just raised your hand. What's up?
Yeah, I wanted to be polite and not cut you off, but I actually have a really relevant story for this. And it's a testament to how strong the breath is. I just shared it with Kylie. So you guys, I was traveling. I was on my way out to Death Valley, California when my partner and I were moving out there. And I had actually just stopped taking Xanax. I was prescribed alprazolam 3 times a day for panic attacks. My doctor had me on a super high dose. and I decided I didn't want to be a zombie anymore. So I got off the medication and I decided to, as I say, raw dog life and not have any help. And yeah, so we started the drive out to California and we got to Colorado Springs, and I was still very much learning how to control my anxiety. And one night, nothing had happened. Just in the middle of the night at midnight, I woke up and I thought I was having a stroke. Like, first it started with just like this dizzy and this like heart pounding. And then I started focusing on those sensations, and then they grew bigger and bigger and bigger until one side of my body went completely numb and my hand was stuck like this, like a creepy Halloween hand. And so I was like, I need the ER, get us to the ER. So we pull up to the ER, and as I'm running inside, I faint. You guys, I faint from this panic attack. And so they come out and they get me, they put me in the wheelchair, they bring me in, they're checking me for all of this serious stuff, thinking something is horribly wrong with me. And then the doctor comes in and goes, that was a panic attack. And the way that they had calmed me down, the way that they had found out it was a panic attack, is because while I was freaking out, while I was telling them I'm going to die, the nurse just goes, hey, why don't we just take one breath? Why don't we just breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth? Because your body cannot operate if you are breathing improperly. And so I went, okay, I still feel like shit. And he was like, okay, I don't care, do it again. So I'm like, and I take 3 or 4 and I feel the symptoms wear off. My hand goes back to non-Halloween town mode. My body relaxes. My chest starts to relax. And I felt better. And so it was in that moment of my life that I truly realized your breathing and your ability to kind of like tap into that is so important if you're somebody who struggles with panic attacks, phobias, or just staying calm. Because once you start to have those physical symptoms, it's easy to go down the rabbit hole, right? We're going to be more anxious if our throat is closing. We're going to be more anxious if our hands are shaking. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share that sort of open, vulnerable story because, like, yeah, I struggle hugely with panic attacks, and learning how powerful the breath is has been game changing for me. And Kylee has helped so much with that.
I love that you shared too, that idea of when you begin to focus on it, then it expands. And you know, that right, that's essentially, that's manifestation, right? The law of attraction, whatever you want, whatever you think of it as, but it's like when you, then it narrows down your mindset even more. It's like, what was I even anxious about to begin with? I don't know, because now I can't breathe. Like I'm having a stroke, I'm having a heart attack, like, So thank you for sharing that story. That is so powerful. And it is crazy to me. Like you think about things that we need to go to the hospital for, like we think that we need help. And then the doctor tells you to breathe. It's like, whoa, that's the number one tool I could have in my toolbox. Right.
Uh-huh.
So anyway.
And the best thing about the breath is that you have it everywhere, whether you're on a hike, you're on an airplane, you're on, I guess not really if you're on Mars, that's a bad example, but pretty much anywhere else in the, like on planet Earth, you have access to your breathing and your air. And so it's a really powerful thing because you can carry that toolkit around with you all day, every day.
All day, every day. And I also want to reiterate too, one more thing is like, if you are kind of having short, rapid breaths, that just signals to your nervous system, to your fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response system that you might be in danger, right? Because when your heart's racing, then the adrenaline comes, the cortisol comes up, which is the stress hormone. It's like, oh my gosh, like our heart's starting to race. We're getting the adrenaline, like it's time to run. It's time to flee the situation. So when you begin to slow that down, right, taking those deep inhales, long exhales, it can begin to actually signal to your body that you are safe. And so Allison and I were talking about this kind of before the class, like breathe, take deep breaths. It seems like it's some like Instagram fad or like, you know, just whenever you're stressed, take a deep breath. But it's like, no, this is genuinely such an important tool. And so I did want to share just one little like strategy here. It's called the breathing belly. The belly breathing strategy.
That sounds like a band name, the Breathing Bellies.
Yeah, you all in? That's our group of, it's our weekly breathing, our weekly breathwork group, the Breathing Bellies, you guys.
You're right. It does sound more like a yoga studio.
It does. Maybe we'll rebrand Austin and Beyond. I don't know. Oh, well, okay. Anyway, back on track. If you're driving, obviously don't do this, but if you're in a safe space, just really quick, I want to introduce this strategy to you. So look down and like notice your belly or your chest. Like when you take a breath, is it your belly that's expanding or is it your chest that is going out? right? So just begin to notice, and whatever it is perfectly fine. Like we're just observing where the body is at. But what I want you to do is on your next inhale, just begin to notice and begin to breathe in such a way that your stomach begins to rise, like begins to expand kind of like a balloon. And then as you exhale, notice your belly begin to go back in, almost as like you're feeling your belly button pull back towards your spine, like you're deflating the balloon. And again, making that mind-body connection, one of my favorite things to do is put my hand on my belly when I'm doing the belly breathing. And so can I actually take an inhale and feel my hand rise with my belly? And then on my exhale, can I feel my belly button fall back towards my spine and actually move my hand? And so this is just one of my favorite strategies to bring into high stress situations, because you're just simply becoming aware of the situation and bringing that breathing out of your chest and into your body, into the like diaphragm and deeper breathing, which therefore will regulate your nervous system. So yeah, I just wanted to share that little strategy with you guys. And the other thing that we can do is simply be present, right? Drop out of your mind, get into your body. There are several different ways that you guys can do this. One of my favorite ones, again, in the moment of high stress, one of my favorite tools is the 5-4-3-2-1 strategy. So it's like when your mind is racing and you are like, what in the world is going on, right? Like I feel completely out of control. I don't know what to do. Just pause and look around. Notice 5 things that you can see. So maybe it's even like a line on the ceiling, a spot on the wall. Maybe it's like the tree outside your window. Just notice 5 things that you can see. And then you want to go ahead and find 4 things that you can touch. And maybe that's simply your water bottle, right? Like, okay, here's my water bottle. There we go. Here I have my hair. I have my necklace, right? 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear. Sometimes even if it's just the buzz of silence, because sometimes you're so consumed with your own thoughts, maybe the one thing that you hear is the voice in your head. That's okay. We're just becoming aware of it. Again, becoming the observer is key. So then we want to find 2 things that you can smell, and then 1 thing that you can taste. And that one's so funny. A lot of people are like, what if I'm not tasting anything? It's like just the taste of your mouth, like, and the whole goal here is to, again, drop ourselves into our physical reality, because the physical body and through those 5 senses is how we experience this world. Right? So when we can actually tune into there and drop out of the mind in our crazy thoughts that are quite literally just floating in the air, it makes everything just seem a little bit easier to handle. So yeah, aside from that, after like getting present in the moment, get up and do something. I know Allison and I both agree that getting outside, spending time in nature, like removing yourself from the situation, so helpful. I don't know whether that's like sometimes showers are helpful, right? Like quite literally, like imagine the waters like rinsing that energy off of you. Allison, what's coming up for you here?
I love to go outside and ground myself. I go outside barefoot and I put my feet in the grass and I just let them sink in, and I just let myself feel the earth beneath me, look at the sky above me, and remind myself how small I am and how big this universe is and how small these thoughts are and how quickly they're going to move through me. And recognizing that if I go, drink my problems away, they're just going to come back as soon as I sober up. So we try to find these healthy coping mechanisms, and it is a sliding scale, because like I would rather you watch TV than go drink a bottle of Jack Daniels, but for me, I think probably going outside and grounding. And then I agree with you on the shower. I'll turn on some really loud, upbeat music. Actually, a tip that I have, if you want to regulate your nervous system really well and you have a personality disorder like borderline or antisocial, I have done a lot of research that says you can listen to music that represents the mood you want to be in, and you will actually pick up on that. So if you are in the worst mood ever, you listen to that high vibe Beyonce anthem shit. Or if you're anxious, you listen to lo-fi, calm, chill beats. And so I put on music like that. I get in the shower. I treat it like a spa treatment. I do the extra conditioner, and I just focus my mind on being in the present moment, because what's amazing about the present moment is anxiety cannot exist there. It can't live there. It can't. Like, anxiety is the manifestation of us obsessing over the past or the future. It does not live or exist in the present.
So powerful. That is so powerful. And we forget that, right? We forget that the present moment right here, right now is all we have. And I love that you talked about too the music and being able to listen to where you want to be, because think about it in terms of frequency, right? Like music vibrates at a certain frequency. What frequency do you want to be at? And I mean that in the sense that emotions are quite literally energy in motion. So if you're experiencing like anxiety or fear, grief or worry, stress, those low vibrational emotions, you need to be able to alchemize that low energy into the high vibrational emotions. And music is one way to do that. So also this, just like a little bit of a side tangent too, but kind of what Allison was saying is like, don't let that get caught up in your system. Don't just ignore it. Don't drink your problems away, or again, sliding scale, but see if you can actually give yourself permission to feel what is going on. Because when you allow yourself to feel, it can move through your body rather than just tucking it away, right, to deal with later.
Love that. Love that. Now, you might have heard of these strategies before, and a lot of people hear about these breathing exercises, breath work, and they think it's very woo woo, very like hippy dippy, and basically not legit. But what do they look like in action? How do you actually implement them in real time? Let's take a peek into Kylie and I's experience. So for me, transitioning from life of being prescribed Xanax to transitioning a life of sobriety, I had no choice but to learn how to adopt these strategies, because when I was making that switch over, my body was constantly in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode all day, every day. I was constantly an anxious hot mess. I was constantly having panic attacks, and I was really, really struggling. And so I found that I had no option unless I wanted to continue living like this, an anxious, just like ball of stress all the time. I needed to find ways to bring myself down and let my body know it's safe. And so in my life, how that manifests is I am someone who, I'm silly because sometimes I handle big things like the laptop situation well, and then I'll come home and like my new pin breaks and I'm like, ah! And I like break down over little things. And so what I try to do is just, I have a list in my journal of things to do when I feel dysregulated. And it's anything from listening to an audiobook I love, having a hot bath, going and loving on my partner for a minute, going for a walk. And I have that visual reminder. So when I start freaking out and going off the deep end, I can open that journal and go, okay, there's something. Because when we are in that place of panic, you're not going to be able to start thinking of coping strategies on your own unless you're like a seasoned veteran who's been doing this nervous system regulating thing for a while. So that is my personal experience. And Kylie, I would love to hear about yours too.
Yeah, I love too that I feel like a lot of your go-to is like audible things like music or like books or things that can bring your mind away from what it was like fixating on, And I love that. And I think it shows like a wonderful example of just like different things that work for different people, because my go-to is completely dropping out of the mind and getting into the body. For those, I know that there's a few familiar faces on here who have been along with the journey, but for those that might not know, I say that yoga quite literally saved my life. And I do have a podcast episode on this. Similar experiences to Allison. Allison and I actually have a podcast together on the road to recovery, talking about addiction and whatnot. But I experienced very similar things. So through college was an absolute nervous system wreck. Like, oh my goodness, I experienced addiction, trying to get rid of those feelings, right? Trying to push it down, just thinking, oh, if I take these stimulants, if I steal my roommate's Adderall, right, then I can just keep going. No one's going to know. I'm okay. I don't have to feel it. I hit a breaking point. Where I was like, there has to be something out here. There has to be something out here, because right now I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I don't understand how everybody else in my world isn't experiencing these same breakdowns that I do, such as my pen breaking, just like Allison mentioned. So long story short, I got myself involved in the world of yoga, and it just like one class was like a complete drug, completely changed my mind about the way that I viewed the world, because I was able to actually learn how to feel into my body, to drop out of my mind, to experience a calm mind. That's one of like my favorite things about yoga, especially, is just being able to calm your mind a little bit. And it actually creates a ripple effect. Like for me with yoga, I show up on my mat every single day, whether that's a 1 hour, like kind of like a hot and like sweaty workout, or 5 minutes of sitting there, cuddled up in a blankie, just like, I call it a sitting practice. I don't even like to call it meditation because that makes it seem like there's a goal to be the Buddha. Nope, it's a sitting practice. We are going to practice sitting. So anyway, I have found yoga as kind of my out, and through spending that dedicated time, whether it's 5 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour, it becomes more intuitive to become present in the moment, like off of the mat and into the rest of my day. So the teacher in me, like after learning that all about myself, the teacher in me could not help but want to share it with everybody else, which is how I started my like online yoga studio, how I got into the world of like yoga teaching and holistic health coaching, and just like striving to help people experience the same calm mind and freedom for themselves. So
I can definitely testify to Kylie's just real quick, her skills as a yoga instructor. I've done one private with her. It was so affordable. It was so lovely. And like, I spent the rest of my day just feeling so present. And so like, I can testify she is a phenomenal yoga instructor.
Oh, I love you so much. It keeps me going. Yeah, I love it. It just, I mean, Allison and I have this in common, right? In this world of just advocating for people who have had similar experiences as us and wanting to help them find that same freedom. So yeah, yoga is my number one go-to. And that being said, I did want to offer everybody on this call, or like whether you're live, whether you're watching the replay, whatever it is, I would love to like invite you to join my online yoga studio if it's something that you are interested in. And I will totally give you like a 22% discount. 22 is my angel number. I love those twos.
Kylie, I'm wearing my 222 right now.
Oh my gosh. See, it's always in such divine timing. Oh, I love it. But yeah, I wanted to invite you guys to join the yoga studio, to find yourself in this like-minded community where we can continue growing, continue evolving on this journey together. And it's at the end of the month. So the next month is starting, which is absolutely perfect. I have new like live classes and offerings and all of that good stuff. So I can drop a link. I'll drop a link either in this chat or in the Instagram chat if it's something you guys are interested in. But I wanted to leave you guys with that little offering. And before we go ahead and end out this call, I know that Allison and I also love Q&A. It's like my favorite part ever. So what questions, what comments, what like aha moments, and what came through for you guys? What are you guys feeling?
Yep. And feel free to drop it in the chat or come off mute, whatever feels good to you. And now we wait.
It's my favorite part.
I know, me too. Just some
Okay,
elevator
I have a
music.
question.
What's up?
Not really sure where I'm going with this, but like you guys were talking earlier about regulating your nervous system when there's certain things that are out of your control. But I was kind of thinking of it as of the perspective, I guess I'll throw in like a personal example. I have a lot of flight anxiety, and I'm going to take a flight on Friday. And I kind of am like wondering the perspective of like things that like you're deciding to do. It's not something that's like forced upon you. Like I am deciding to do this, but I'm still very fearful of it. So I kind of wanted that perspective too, because obviously I could cancel it, but I just know that I wouldn't be, aligning with myself, because I would just be avoiding something out of fear. You know what I mean?
So it's almost like that feel the fear and do it anyway kind of thing, right?
Right.
You know that you're like scared and terrified, but you know that you can push through it. And here's what I like to remind myself: I'm not going to die. Actually, the reason I was put on Xanax in the first place was for flights, because I would get on planes and hyperventilate as soon as we took off. And I just had to one day realize, like, yes, I'm uncomfortable. Yes, this is the worst 1 to 6 hours of my life right now, but I'm going to live. This is not going to kill me. Nobody has ever died spontaneously on a plane. And even though like there is that like real fear of plane crashes, with science nowadays, it does not really happen ever. So I try to remind myself of the science, of the facts. And also last time I flew back from Vegas when I moved home from Death Valley. I did the breathwork thing for the first time ever on a flight. Usually I don't do that. And it helped tremendously. Like I had a bunch of lo-fi downloaded. So I had that. I put on this nice sleeping mask, had some lavender on my wrist, and I just breathed the entire flight. And I know that sounds kind of like, oh, well, of course, everyone was breathing on the flight, but like I paid attention to my breath, and that was all I paid attention to. I didn't think about the turbulence. I tried not to think about the guy sitting next to me, like with his arm on my armrest. Like I just focused on the breath. Does that help at all?
Yeah, no, I love that. I definitely will be taking some tips from this class into my flight on Friday.
Yay, where are you flying to, by the way?
I'm going to Boise. I'm going to see Brooke Curley. Kylie knows who she is, but
Oh, you're going to
Kylie and I were in the same
Idaho.
sorority, so that's how I know.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
love that.
I love it so much. And thank you for sharing that, Palma. That's like super, super helpful. And even realizing that like Allison experiences the same exact things. And one thing that was coming up for me that I was like a little bit hesitant to say it because I don't want this to sound like morbid, but acceptance is everything. Once you are on that flight, what if it crashes? Like what are you gonna do? Right? You can't do anything about it. And so like I said, I don't want this to be like Debbie Downer type of thing, but it's that idea of like, okay, this is so far out of my control. And so I am feeling the fear. I am going to surrender and do it anyway, because I know at the end of the day, it's just my nervous system looking out for me. And it is so valid, right? Like that is a potential physical threat that you're putting yourself in. So that's another thing also that Allison and I, like, I guess we didn't make it a huge like thing, but there are so many relevant circumstances in which it is proper and like appropriate for your nervous system to kind of be acting up. And you'll notice that too, like things like the flight, that's a good one, right? It's like a little bit of, I mean, your body is going to go fly thousands of feet in the air. That's huge. We see that a lot with like friend groups, or nowadays like public speaking, right? All of these little fears come from some sort of danger, like, oh, am I going to say something wrong and then I'm going to be like exiled from the group? Like
Yeah, those are the ones that like don't really help us. Like when you're like talking to your friend and they're being kind of short with you and you're immediately like, oh, fight or flight or fawn or freeze. That's an unnecessary one because your friend is likely just busy or hasn't checked their phone, but you are going into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn because way back when your ancestors knew that if they were exiled from the tribe, if they were pushed away from their friends, that was life or death. They're going to get eaten by a bear. So like when I learned that, it made me feel so much more normal and okay about the fact that sometimes in relationships, I just go straight to fawning because I'm panicked. I'm panicking and that's my trauma response.
Yeah, it's so big.
Yeah, I agree with that, Kylie. It's funny you brought that up because at the beginning of the video, you're talking about how it all comes down to acceptance. And I was thinking about that. I was like, I am taking a calculated risk. I'm choosing to do this because I want to be with my friends. And if I die on that plane, then that's what was meant to happen. Like, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And that like our logical mind is going to be like, that doesn't make sense. Like, what do you mean I'm just going to die? Like, what can I do about it? Right. So yeah, it's so powerful. It is so powerful. What a beautiful realization.
Yes. Do we have any other questions, you guys? And they don't have to specifically be about the workshop. They can be, but you can also ask Kylie and I any questions about ourselves, about our podcast, anything like that. Last call for questions. We'll give you just about a minute.
I just wanted to say thank you so much. I was disappointed that I couldn't like be, really a part of it, but I'm glad that I got to be here and got to listen. And I'm excited for the replay so I can like actually like sit down and take a breath and write notes. I just had like way too much going on this afternoon. But thank you guys so much.
Totally. We are so glad to have had you.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you guys are all able, like it's a huge commitment to show up and it shows that you guys are like here and willing to put in the work. So it's huge.
Okay, we got another question. Kim is asking, what are your go-tos for struggling with dissociation? This one is so powerful and so relevant because oftentimes we just want our mind to go somewhere else. And I think that really comes down to, and I think Kylie can speak more on this, grounding in the moment. Realizing that if you can just get out of your mind and into your body, that will solve a lot of it. Putting your hands on something cold. I like to play with my senses. If I feel really dissociated, I will go to the bathroom, get some cold water and throw it all over my face. Or I will like, this is maybe not the most healthy one, but I have this little rubber band and I'll like do a little flick on the tip of my finger and be like, okay, Allison, you're here, you're human, you're alive, you're experiencing this. And just find ways to safely engage your senses. Maybe that's doing a bunch of jumping jacks. Okay, maybe that's not like the best favorite one, the most favored option, but it's just about getting out of that brain and back into your body, because you're dissociating from your brain. Your body is still fully present. It's your mind that has drifted off. And Kylie, do you want to add?
Yeah, no, I love the way that you explained it. And I just think, if anything, like when you are dissociating, kind of what Allison was saying, it's like it's your thoughts. It's not that you aren't there, right? And so when you think about what your thoughts are, they're nothing. Like they're not physical. You can't touch them. They're just like floating in what we call the ether. They're floating like in space. They're floating in the air. And so that's why there are like all of these different possibilities. That's why you could land yourself in Jamaica with a margarita in your hand and embrace that reality for a moment when you're like dissociating from what is. But like she was saying, that's the importance of engaging your senses, right? Those 5 senses, because that's how we experience reality. And our minds are going to fight that. Our minds are always going to fight that. But yeah.
And I think it's okay to dissociate for a second. You just can't stay there, right? You just can't live there in dissociation. You dissociate for the really, really traumatic, painful part, and then you come back into your body.
And that's where awareness comes in too. It's like, okay, whoa, I'm aware that I'm dissociating. I'm going to let myself do this because that's okay. But in 5 minutes, I'm going to do something to maybe take a little step forward, right? You got to also allow yourself to feel what is coming up.
Yeah, well, that was an awesome Q&A. So this last slide for you guys.
Really quickly, we have a hand raised. Garrett raised his hand.
Garrett, please pop on.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say with like dissociating, because I was having this issue earlier today. Yeah, I've had to get so physical with things, like in order to get out of dissociating, like taking cold showers or just doing a ton of like push-ups or running. It's like not ideal, but there's so many times where I do just sit there spinning for so long that, yeah, really getting in touch with the senses, or really kind of like really just like forcing your body to like, or your mind, I guess, to remember that you have a body going on.
Oh my gosh, I love that. By
testing its limits in some way or another. That's been the best grounding for me. And even like focusing my brain afterwards and even giving like a sense of being like productive.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I really liked that saying. What did you say? You have to remind your mind that you have a body?
Oh yeah, I think that's what I said.
That was
dissociated.
Like really good. Super, super good. Oh my god.
Well, if you didn't know, Kylie, this is actually Garrett, who I recorded an episode with on mental health struggles and relationships. So he is actually a very wise person with a lot of info on that. So thank you so much for sharing that, Garrett. I definitely understand that feeling. And Palma, thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Yes. And I guess we could flip to our slide. So this is our contact. If you want to stay in connection with me and Kylie, you can screenshot this, our podcast, our Instagrams, our websites. We would love to connect with you guys. Feel free to shoot us some DMs. Feel free to talk. And another thing I want to kind of put on your radar is the fact that Kylie and I are actually planning on, in the spring this year, hosting a in-person mountain retreat. People will come, we will disconnect from our phones and internet and reconnect with our bodies. There'll be yoga, breath work, self-development classes. And so we're going to drop dates on that probably in the fall or winter, but just something to keep on your radar if you feel like escaping next spring.
Absolutely. So thank you guys so much again for taking the time out of your evening to show up and be here and be present with us. We love the interaction, and it shows too that, again, you guys are here, you are willing to put in the work, and awareness. It's the first step. So thank you guys for joining us for such a wonderful masterclass. And I think, Allison, correct me if I'm wrong, but we will be posting the replay, or we can share the replay with you guys along with these slides too, if that will be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. If that works for everybody, we will send it over. Just make sure that we have your email. So either send that to Kylie or I if we don't already have it. I think just Garrett, you might be the only one I'm missing, but yeah.
Awesome. All right, you guys, thank you so much. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Mwah.
Yes. Thank you for being here. We'll see you guys next time.